Welcome to the Modern Pirate Podcast. My name is Kent Mulligan and today's guest is Adam Kavanagh. I really enjoyed this chat with Adam. We spoke about his travels into remote outback Australia and the health issues that led him to changing his life and taking a more of an ancestral approach to living. We touched on bush survival and living off the land and his connection to the indigenous community in Cape York and far north Queensland. There's lots of gems in here. It was a really great chat. I hope you enjoy the conversation as much as I did. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by our good friends at Chaga Health. Chaga Health is an organic, wild harvested chaga mushroom elixir. These chaga mushrooms are harvested in the pristine Nordic forests of Estonia and blended with sea buckthorn extract and vitamin C to create a powerful immune boosting elixir. I use this product daily to keep my immunity high and to speed up my recovery. I highly recommend you check out this product and optimize your health and immune system also. Podcast listeners today get a 10% discount off your entire order over at chagahealth.com.au. That's Chaga, C-H-A-G-A, health.com.au. Enter the code ModernPirate10 at checkout to receive your discount. This episode is also brought to you by our company, Modern Pirate. Modern Pirate is an Australian-made men's grooming company that is 100% carbon neutral. We're based in Melbourne, Australia, and produce a large range of men's grooming products. We have naturally enhanced styling pomades and clays, shampoo, conditioner, and our Black Pearl body wash. We also have our range of natural soaps that include charcoal, Australian red clay, bentonite clay, and my favourite, the Dead Sea mud. Head over to the website modernpirate.com.au and enter the code MP20 at checkout for a 20% discount off your entire order. Adam Kavanagh, welcome to the Modern Pirate Podcast. How are you, brother?
Not too bad, mate. How are you doing?
Good. You're looking well?
Thank you. Yeah, a little bit scruffy, but...
Yeah, I was a bit scruffy before 10 o'clock this morning when I went and got my first haircut in about 3 months.
Slick.
It was a good feeling. It's getting a bit wild and woolly. Whereabouts are you, mate? You're obviously back in civilization. It looks like you've got your bow in the background there and a bit of hunting paraphernalia.
Actually, well, right at the minute, I'm in my brother's spare room. It's like full of crap at the moment. I've been helping my old man clean his house up. But yeah, I'm in Blackwater at the moment, back at in my hometown for a bit, yeah.
Great. Hey, so just touching on that for the listeners, you're Adam Kavanagh, you're an Australian, you're from Blackwater in central Queensland, and you are a survival expert. You spend a lot of time in the outback, living off the land, connecting with the indigenous cultures, and yeah, getting back to your roots, I guess, where we all came from.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd claim a survival expert, but I just have a massive passion for it.
I don't know. I've seen you handling some 12-foot snakes recently. I think that's a bit of a skill to get out of that one unscathed.
Yeah, no, I've been pretty lucky with that actually. But yeah, no, it's I guess you could call it that. But yeah, I just have a massive passion for nature and spending time in the bush. Hey, really.
And is that something you've always had within you, or is it something that's developed more in recent years? We'll backtrack a little bit to your health issues, which probably kicked off, the path that you're on at the moment. But is that something you've always done? Have you always spent time in the outdoors and enjoyed that aspect of where you live?
Yeah, I guess where I live now is it's maybe only an hour and a half actually from where I was born. So I'm actually from rural Australia, and I'm actually, I guess you could say, I'm off a cattle property originally. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I've always lived in the bush. So I guess I've been pretty lucky that way. And I mean, I've never actually really lived in a city before, so I guess I've always lived pretty remote. And I mean, just thinking back now, when I was growing up on the farm, like, I mean, I was always turning over rocks and, like, catching lizards and bugs and stuff. Like, it just never really stopped. I mean, maybe there was a small period in my teenage years where I was maybe more interested in computer games, but apart from that, like, I've always been into nature and stuff for sure.
That's good. That's cool. And so, why have you never lived in a city? Is it just something that you've never really gravitated towards, or is it being more your work has kept you out in that region?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's more circumstance, like, because I spent like 9 years in the coal mines, and I mean, people do fly in and fly out from like Brisbane or a lot of the cities, but I mean, I guess you know what you know. Like, I know rural outback Queensland, so it's like what I'm used to. But I mean, I have like spent small amounts of time living in the city, I guess you could say, but it's definitely I don't know if it's somewhere that I'd want to spend long term.
Definitely. Definitely has its downfalls, especially if you're somebody that does enjoy that time in nature. And I know for me, being in the city, I really have to make the effort to, schedule weekends away and get out and refresh. I think it's really important. And probably, through this last couple of months, it's something that, once it's taken away from you and you don't have access to it, I think that's become really challenging. So, there's a lot of value in having the space and being able to put your feet on the ground and, take in what your natural environment's got.
Yeah. I don't know how you find it, but I find it's like a real trade-off. Hey, like out in the like sort of more rural parts of Australia, like where I am, for instance, like, you can't just rock up to some mad meditation circle. Well, that I know of, you know what I mean? Or like there's a lot more like community and I don't know. I mean, I don't know why I said meditation circle. That was pretty random, but I mean, like there's this like random cool like sick people that do a lot of cool stuff in the city. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot more of that community, I guess, compared to remote Australia. But that's like the trade-off. Is that you do, it's like obviously so close to nature here.
I agree, and that's that's one thing I find challenging at the moment. It's that trade-off. It's trying to find a bit of balance. I'm trying to run a business where I need to be in the city and access everything that the city's got to offer. And like you say, there's really great communities amongst this kind of chaos that's going on here. There's a lot of like-minded people, and it's very easy to find a groove and tap into things that you're interested in and have access to a really big variety of things. So when you go somewhere, like I notice when I go back to New Zealand, I spend time at my parents' place where it's very quiet and remote. It's absolutely beautiful and really fulfilling in so many ways, but you're kind of missing this connection to, or access, I should say, to just a broader range of things that I'm interested in. So it's tricky. It's tricky to find where's my place.
I guess the beauty is, like, I guess you, to some degree, I guess you can have both.
For sure. If you can cultivate a life where you've got the room to schedule in, regular trips away, which fortunately I can to a degree, and being somewhere like Melbourne where, we've got access to, really big variety of places, we've got beautiful mountains and insanely remote countryside and bush, and the most beautiful coastlines as well. So within 2 hours of the city, you can kind of tap into some of these locations where you just can really kind of kick back and recharge quickly. And even a weekend, I find, is depending on where you go, it just feels like you've been away for ages when you've been deep in the bush, and all you're listening to is kookaburras and deer honking and crackling of a fire.
I mean, just from like following your Instagram, man, it seems like you've definitely got the best of both worlds. Like,
I think I have, actually. Like, I mean, I love where I live in the city, I'm very central. Like my daughter is in the next suburb, so I can spend a really beautiful time with my daughter. I can feel fulfilled with what I'm doing with work. But look, if I want to drop things on a Friday morning and just go, fuck it, I'm heading somewhere and, checking out, then, I'm so grateful I can do that. No, it's cool.
That's sick. Like I guess we kind of do the opposites there. Like going to the city's like a rare event for me, but we kind of like do it in reverse.
Other end of the spectrum, tapping into. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, so you mentioned you worked in the coal mines, and like, was that something you did out of school? Was that kind of a job that you did for many years?
I get like it come a little bit further down the track. Well, not too much further. Like I started when I was 19.
Yeah. In
the mines, but
if you don't mind me asking, how old are you now?
32.
32. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I spent a fair chunk of time in the mines. Like I mean, I had a few other jobs, but literally, yeah, like basically nearly fell straight into coal mining, and then well, I guess to be honest, I actually haven't done anything else just yet, like except completely full-time travel since I've stopped.
So with that stint in the coal mines, did you you ended up having some health issues, which I guess that's what swayed you to change your lifestyle and move away from that job and the stress around it. At what point did you start noticing something wasn't right, and how long did it take for you to really identify what was going on and what you felt, what was a comfortable approach for you, or the path that you chose to take to remedy or mitigate the the issues that you were having?
Yeah, I mean, from like previous conversations that we've had, I feel that like we've really sort of definitely had the same like journey with health and like industry work, and it's been so similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, like yeah. To be honest, I think I really noticed something was up when I was about 23. I mean, at the time, like I'd heard of, so like it goes way beyond the scope of like gluten-free. But at the time, I guess when I was about 23, like, I'd heard the word gluten-free before, and I was like, that's just people being soft, like everyone can eat that stuff. Like, what are you talking about? Like,
yeah,
it was the weirdest thing I've ever heard. But yeah, when I was about 23, like I noticed something was wrong. Like I would throw up if I ate certain things, but I couldn't really pinpoint it at the time. And yeah, like I went to the doctors then, and I was like, do you think maybe I could like have that gluten intolerant stuff? And they're like, oh shit, I don't know, mate, like it's a lot of tests we'd have to run. And then so like finding out now, I know a lot more about it, and I had tests done and found out, I have the celiac gene, and like there's definitely, I guess you'd say, gluten intolerance there. That was just one part of like my health journey, really. But just at the time, like that was initially when I kind of knew something was a bit wrong.
Yeah.
And then I guess the wheels didn't really fall off until, I was like maybe 26, 27. And that's when I had my first, I guess you'd say really, well, maybe it was about 26. Anyway, I had like my first, what I'd call like a thyroid episode, where like my thyroid just blew up.
Okay.
And then, I guess that's where it started.
And what's the thyroid issue? Is it Hashimoto's, or is it some other form of thyroid inflammation?
You know what? To this day, I still don't know.
Okay.
I know what it's not, but I don't know what it is. And like, there's definitely an issue there, but I guess Hashimoto's would be what I'd go with. Like it's unexplainable, so I guess maybe that's probably the better way to describe it. But that's it is kind of funny. I still to this day don't know exactly what's going on. I mean, like, I could pretty much paint the picture, really.
Sure.
But
and tick some.
Yeah,
I can understand that with my issue with my heart. It's very difficult to identify exactly what's going on, and all you can do is just go through this elimination process and, you know, self-discovery and educate yourself about it, and kind of go, all right, that makes sense. I've got, you know, this genetic polymorphism that is related to potentially one avenue this could be, and you just start eliminating things or identifying things. But how do you know? How can you really know? It's a complex thing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. I guess the more you go to a doctor trying to find stuff wrong with you, you know, you'll find stuff wrong with you.
And he'll be happy to prescribe you something to mitigate symptoms.
And to be honest, like, that's what I mean. Like, I kept going back every time I really got sick and tried to look into it more and more. But I mean, yeah, like, I probably sound like I'm bagging doctors. Like, I'm definitely not. Like, you know, they're trained in a certain way for a certain thing, and it just didn't seem to be helping me at the time. But I mean, like, yeah, I've definitely spent time seeing a lot more, like, what you'd call maybe holistic doctors or integrative doctors at the moment. And I guess they've been a lot more helpful in identifying things. But in general, yeah, I guess it's been my own journey of self-discovery, I guess you could say, like, which has been good in a way. Like, just in the sort of more remote rural area that I'm from, yeah, like, I guess it doesn't really attract high-end doctors, or if you want to call it that.
Sure.
That just, you know, they see something like, yeah, they're not a specialist in what's wrong with me, so they only have a general knowledge in everything. So yeah, like, I'm glad that happened in a way. Like, it's really pushed me to look into my own health more and discover more of my own sort of
Yeah, definitely. I think there's so much value in that, and that's, you know, again, it's the path that I've been on as well. Like, trying to, you know, get the answers from, you know, the mainstream medical system, who, like you say, are fantastic in so many ways and have played a big part in, you know, my journey of you know, creating this plan. But to, you know, sort of backtrack and try and treat the cause, so to speak, or identify where and why, you know, this happened. Yeah, it's, you know, it's just not the model. That's just not their model. And, you know, branching out into, you know, some alternative, or, you know, like you say, holistic or integrative people is where the same with me, is where I've got the most value, and where I've got, you know, little snippets of information that have pushed me down, you know, rabbit holes of discovering myself. And I think it's really empowering. I think that is part of what plays a role in your own healing as well, is taking control of it. And, you know, you become really in touch with your own body and how it works, and you get a real understanding of what works for you, and it is, you know, extremely individual. So, you know, there's lots of value in that path.
Yeah, like, I guess I wouldn't have really expected that I was a curious person around that kind of stuff. Like, to be honest, I would have been the kind of person I would have went to the doctor and just, you know, they'd have been like, oh, yeah, take this tablet, and I would have been like, yeah, sweet, mate, like, that's cool, you know, like, not really think anything more of it. But I guess I was lucky in a way that I could sort of, like, I could really see it when I went to the doctor, and, like, they would be like, oh yeah, just take this, you know, blah blah blah, and then I'd be like, oh, okay, like, do you reckon you know why I'm actually sick at all? And they'd be like, you know, there'd be like long silences, and I guess that's what really pushed me. I thought, shit, okay, like, because it runs in my family, but it's mostly been in the females. I guess I'm, like, probably the first male in the family to have, like, the thyroid issues. But, you know, like, you can kind of see that. It's like, okay, like, well, if it's everyone in the family has it, but it's just like no one knows why it's there. It's like, it's just like this thing. It's like, oh, you've just drawn the short straw, mate. That's all it is. Knowing what I don't have. So I know, like, in my family, like, this goes beyond my scope of knowledge, really. But, like, I know everyone in my family, for instance, they have Graves, like the Graves form of thyroid, and mine's not that. But I've still, suffering from some kind of autoimmune issue is all I could say, you know what I mean? But in a way, I guess you can spend a whole lot of time focused on trying to work out what it is exactly. But the good thing is, it all seems to be sort of treated the same way. Like, I've changed. It forced me to, it doesn't force everyone. A lot of people live with illnesses, and it's not enough to shake up their life. But for me, it was enough. And, a change in lifestyle and food, and that's turned my life around.
Yeah,
and
sure. Yeah. And so at what point, so did you get to a point where you felt like, I need to quit my job, I need to, really reassess what's going on in my life and take some time out and go and, get into your own head, so to speak, and make a plan to move forward? What was that sort of stage? How did that pan out?
I guess what happened was, like, I stumbled across the caveman diet or paleo diet, and I'd been doing that for, I'd probably, maybe 6 months or a year, or it was roughly something like that. And like my health turned around, did a 180, and I was like, holy shit, okay. And I remember I went and visited my mom. She lives 3 hours away. I drove down. This had been after a few months of changing my diet, and she was like, holy shit, you could just see that I just looked different. And I was like, this shit works. And it was from there. The more, so I never used to actually read books or anything like that. I guess you could, I don't want to say I was a dummy, but I just had no interest in reading. But at the time, I guess this was still at a stage, I guess maybe there wasn't heaps of information on the internet just yet. So I guess the biggest thing for me, I got on the internet. This is when I was first starting to question why I was sick. I found this book, read the book. It said it talked about the caveman diet. Did that. Health started to return. And I guess I started to question more things as that went on. I was like,
just generally in life.
Yeah. I'm in this job. It's good money. Don't really like it though. Is this really what I want to be doing? And actually, there's a few events that happened in my family, and it really kind of opened my eyes to how short life was. So I really sort of had the boat had been shaken pretty hard, I guess, if you want to say that.
Yeah.
And I kind of just got to that stage, I was really just what the fuck am I doing? And I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, because when you're earning really good, sick money, I was like, well, I don't know if I really want to quit the mines. So I was really unsure. Hey, and then everyone that I work with, they're like, oh mate, you're mad if you quit this, or you'll never get this again. Because I was a permanent employee. People spend years and years trying to achieve to get their shirt, you'd call it. You're like, oh, you got your shirt. But it was just maybe there's more than this. And then I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So as you do, I pretty much booked a 4-month trip to Africa, with 2 weeks notice. And didn't tell my parents until last minute. Anyway, so I went over there, and I thought it'd be because I really didn't know what I wanted to do. If I did want to quit, and I thought, I'll go do that, and I'll see how I feel. Not working for that amount of time. And there was some trips around Australia in there as well, and I guess that was starting to wake me up to more. Every time I wasn't at work, I was feeling better. But I guess that probably would make sense to a lot of people that don't like their job. It's like, oh, yeah, of course you're going to feel good if you're not at work.
And then got back to Australia and
I got back, and then I kind of knew then. I was like, right, so I made a bit of a plan. So I started like I had so much sick leave left. I just started hooking into that because I guess at the same time I was still a little bit unsure, but I wasn't exactly sure. So I started just doing a bit more study and got like a personal trainer certification. And then, just I'd been traveling to, like, I remember when I was 19, I was writing a list of things I'd need if I was to ever travel to Australia. And I guess it just, after Africa, actually being out and traveling a bit, I was like, I don't even know how this is going to work, but I'm just going to do it. So I started like getting things in order. Like it took a few months to get that done. And then, eventually I just walked into work with a letter and I'm just like, see you later.
Wow.
I haven't looked back since then. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. It's funny. It's really similar to my story. I worked on the oil rigs and same thing, was really questioning, had a great job. Everyone was like, don't quit. You're set for life with this job. And same thing, I just felt like there was something else was calling, or that was not my calling. And I kind of was digging deep into a lot of, sort of health and wellness and did, same thing, PT certificate 3 and 4 in fitness and studied sports nutrition and it just kind of ended up sort of steering towards, something else that I felt like was a bit more fulfilling. So, I can relate to that. I pulled the pin as well with, with a dream to start Modern Pirate and just dived in at the deep end. It's really, it's exciting when you kind of make that choice and like, all right, I'm doing this. So with that trip, was that one, did you start off and just do one sort of decent trip then and, kind of use Blackwater as your base to come back and forth? Or did you, just kind of stay on the road for an extended period of time?
Since I quit, you mean?
Yeah, following that.
So before I actually quit and before Africa, like I'd done 2 smaller quick trips around Australia, I guess. So I guess like I guess in my mind, somehow I thought that was going to get it out of my system, but it actually just made it worse. And I'm like, oh no, like I'm hooked on traveling Australia. So since I quit, I guess I've been back around home a couple of times since I've quit. Like there's always been some reason, like I'll drop in and see the family for a bit and hit the road again because I guess I've got all my stuff stored here. But I guess the being at home now is actually probably, well, this is probably the longest I've spent at home since I quit, like 4 years ago.
Wow.
So.
And so in regards to your health stuff, how did you find, like, what were some of the things, apart from the paleo diet, what other practices have you, been drawn to or that are you using, or things that have evolved, to become more ingrained in your sort of daily routine to keep yourself, on track in regards to your health? Like obviously being in the outdoors and spending that time is, that naturally is going to help in lots of ways. But are you, we touched on meditation earlier. Are you doing meditation? Are you doing, breath work, or, what other things have you kind of introduced that you notice really help?
Yeah, like since I guess, like we'll get a bit hippy dippy if you want.
Fuck yeah.
When I first, when I first went paleo, it's like I noticed that like my head was getting more clear, if that makes sense. And I was just like, wow, okay, like that's pretty crazy. And at the time, like everyone's like, oh, paleo is pretty crazy, man. Like you got to eat grains and milk and stuff. Like, what are you doing, bro? Like not having that. And so it was like, I'm doing this real hardcore thing called the caveman diet, where I don't eat, cereal or dairy, and it's just like, just like at the time, it was just like the most crazy concept.
For sure.
But I guess I was just hungry for more because I was like, shit, well, if that worked, I wonder what other crazy hippy-dippy stuff will work. So I think I was having a crack at a bit of yoga, and like I've tried a hell of a lot of stuff. I guess in some ways I do certain things not others. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it all, after doing it a lot, you realize that you're kind of doing it in other forms.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I dived initially into, I guess, meditation, yoga. It was a fair while before I stumbled across the breath work actually, and the ice baths and stuff. But yeah, I guess there was also like looking into how your brain is wired, so to speak, like, you know, how you actually think about a situation. And actually, to be honest, the first thing I come across, there was like a quote, what is it, like, I think there was a good one, you know, something like, the Dalai Lama said, you know, like a man, you know, sacrifices his health to earn money and then sacrifices his money to get his health back. And I was like, whoa,
yeah,
okay. And like, I'm a bogan outback Queensland coal miner, and like I'm seeing stuff like that. And I'm like, whoa, you know, like there's more out there. Yeah. So
it's hard when you kind of take the lid off and, you know, open that can of worms. Like you say, you know, when you start getting a bit of clarity, there's just, you know, a myriad of things that start sort of coming to the surface. Yeah, that's interesting. And so with that, so obviously it started with the, you know, the change in diet and feeling like, okay, you know, there's more to this. And then, you know, these other things, you know, were you seeking these out, or was it kind of like things were just presenting themselves, and, you know, the more you learnt, the more you kind of, you know, were drawn down different paths?
Yeah, I guess it was the more I learnt, I was like, I was actually thinking about it the other day. Like, I realized I was getting really excited when I'd stumble across something I didn't know. Like, I'd be reading a book and it'd be like, for what I've learned now, like, and initially when I was like reading this book on like thyroid, how to healing your thyroid naturally, and it just started going into like stress and the effect that had. And at the time I was like, whoa, I was like, that's so accurate. I was like, that's crazy. And then they would be like, get going to just food, and I'd be like, wow, like, how did I not know this kind of stuff? And I mean, there's so many different ways to health now, but yeah, like I was just hungry. I was like, wow, like I wonder what else is out there, and I just kept opening more cans of worms. And I guess I was already at that stage where it's like, I don't know, like I was getting healthier and better, and it was just like, to me, it was like undeniable. So I was like, yeah, rightio, screw it, let's just dive like into it head first, and let's see how deep it goes. Yeah, like how you said, like once I took the lid off, it's like, I'll stuff it, let's just go all the way in.
Yeah, it's a bit like myself as well. And yeah, I can relate to that excitement when you sort of discover something, and, you know, you start sort of putting the dots together on things, you know, like the stress is a big one. Like, and you know, as we know, there's lots of different forms of stress that all kind of manifest in the same way in the body. And there's a increase in inflammation, and you know, release of cortisol, lots of these things that play a big role in these, you know, metabolic diseases that a lot of society has. And with really simple changes to your diet, and like you say, how you think, you know, and, you know, what you do with your, you know, with your downtime, and you know, you can make some pretty profound changes in your health, and, you know, your mental health particularly, that, you know, it's very accessible. And it's crazy that, you know, this information is not, you know, more, well, it's available, but that it's not taught more, I guess, to, you know, to people, younger people, because it's, you know, I think you address a lot of these things prior to any kind of other intervention, then, you know, you got a pretty good chance of improving your life.
Yeah, I guess society is really geared up, especially like just from what I can sort of remember at school, like health wasn't really a component so much. Like, I guess there was to some degree, but not like with what I know now. Like, I definitely, like, it would be cool if like people knew some of the stuff that, like, I guess that we know now from having our health crises.
Yeah.
Like it'd be cool if some of this stuff was more mainstream. Well, I guess it is getting more mainstream now, but it would have been good, like maybe it would have, it'd be cool if you.
Yeah, if it was. And I think, when it doesn't, you don't have to go back that far, a generation or two, to look at, particularly, I'd say our grandparents and how they lived. And they were much more in line with, I guess, a healthier way of living, more contact with the earth and a connection to their food, and things tended to be a lot more local.
Yeah, that's actually one thing I have noticed since I've been back in Blackwater. Like when I've gone to the shops here now, you actually can buy more organic stuff, and I was like, wow, didn't really exist before, but there's actually a bit of a range of it now. I'm like, that's cool, that's it just goes to show that, I guess there is change happening.
Yeah, demand's there for sure. And what about, so with you, with the these times that you go and get, particularly when you go and become much more isolated out of nature and take minimal stuff with you, how do you survive, and what do you do out there? I know you've done stints in Arnhem Land, which is maybe one of the most remote places in the world.
But actually, Arnhem Land's the only place I haven't been yet.
Oh, okay.
I've left it till last for a reason. I've spent a lot of time right next door to Arnhem Land, up in the Gulf. But I've left that bad boy till last.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. We can get to that. Yeah.
Yeah. When I'm out there, I don't know. I guess when I first started doing it, I didn't really have a plan. I was just doing it because I thoroughly enjoyed it. But yeah, I guess when I'm out there, I kind of just go with the ebbs and flow of nature, if you want to call it that. I'll just go out. I don't really have a set plan. I'll just go out and right, well, the fridge is empty. Now I got to go find food, and it's actually surprised me, the pursuit, because I do bow hunting, just that alone, that can burn up days, actually out getting something, trying to hunt something, because even if you find something, that doesn't mean that you can actually get close enough to to get a shot away or actually get it, because the wind might be wrong. There's so many different factors, or it might be too hot to actually be out hunting. So yeah, literally I'll wake up and it's just, if I have some food, it's have some food, and then basically the rest of the day is hunting, and then literally just gathering food consumes the whole day.
That's an interesting thing. And do you notice, what kind of changes do you notice? You become more sensitive to the surroundings or more aware, with that, this, a lot of people talk about, when you are relying on food and when you have to hunt to get your own food, that you have, some really obvious changes in your biology. Do you pick up on any of that sort of stuff?
Oh yeah, for sure. I guess when you go there and you don't have so many distractions, literally, I'll wake up in the morning and I'll just lay there and I'll just listen, and then I'll hear animals off in the distance. Usually, I'll wake up and there'll be the kookaburras doing their thing, and then I'll just sit there, and if the pigs are close enough, usually I'll hear them, or if there's the cattle there, I'll hear them, and then that'll be all right, I'm heading.
Is that wild cattle, scrub bulls and?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the scrub cattle. Because everything in the morning seems to have a call or do some kind of, they make a hell of a lot of noise in the morning. I don't know if that's their way of letting each other know where they are, or.
Okay.
Yeah, they all seem to do that, and then that'll dictate which direction I'll kind of walk that day hunting.
And so you said that you hunt with a bow, and is it a traditional recurve bow? Is that what you're primarily hunting with, or?
I have a compound bow and a traditional bow, and I guess the hungrier I get, I'm probably going to pull the compound bow out to get it done. Yeah, I mean, if I have a little bit of
just because the accuracy and the distance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like for me personally, it's like the difference between like a knife and a gun. Like the traditional bow, I have to get really close, and like you have to get pretty. Like for me, like if I want to have an effective shot, I have to get pretty damn close. But with the compound, with the sights and stabilizers and everything hanging off it, like they're pretty. I find them to be pretty bloody accurate. So if I need to get it done, like a 30 or a 40 meter shot, I'll just go out with the compound, because I pretty much know that if I come across something, that's a pretty easy distance for me to close the gap on.
Yeah.
But with the trad bow, like I'm doing 10 meter shots, so you got to get pretty close, and that doesn't tend to happen a lot.
Yeah, and is that how's that when you're hunting something like a scrub bill, which are extremely dangerous and aggressive? Are you, is there, have you got a lot of cover? What are you, are you concerned about, being charged by the bull or buffalo or whatever? There's wild buffalo up in that region as well, isn't there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there's definitely the water buffalo as well where I hang out. I guess with the scrub ball so far, I haven't really tried the trad bow yet, because where I am is very open and exposed. I've tried to get close enough, but just I don't know, just with the trad bow, I guess the conditions have to be pretty good for when I'm using that as my main sort of bow. But that's the best thing about the compound bow, I find, is that just that little bit of extra gap just gives you a little bit more leeway in the open country where I kind of hunt. So I can it's a lot. It's pretty open, so to get as close as I like to for the shot, it just helps with that using the compound.
Sure. And so with that, so you might go, there might be days up there when obviously you're not having access to wild meat all the time. What else do you eat? And how have you learned to identify what you can eat? So, are you eating, plant or plant-based kind of style foraging, or are you kind of swinging more towards, reptiles and other kind of small tasty treats out there?
Yeah, I've been lucky with spending a fair bit of time in the Gulf, in the indigenous communities. The indigenous people, they've showed me a fair bit of the bush tuckers, because I always carry, I've got the little Les Hiddens pocket bush tucker guide.
Okay.
And it's awesome because he covers a hell of a lot of the plants that are in the area. But to an extent, there's still a lot of stuff around that's not in that book. So it's a good general guide for a lot of things, but there's still so much that's not in that book. And I've been showed a fair bit of that stuff, but it's very seasonal, especially up there where I go. So it could only be a couple of months a year where there's probably access to plants anyway.
Okay.
So I definitely stick more to the meats and stuff. And then, I will, I'll go fishing, and there's heaps of different things that I'll eat. It's not always limited to just the bow, but.
And so what, fishing for barramundi, or is it freshwater, or are you right on the coast?
Both. It's a bit of a trip from where I am out to the coast, but if I head out to the coast, it's usually chasing salmon or barramundi, or
wow.
There's heaps of different things out there, or crawling through the mud, finding there's these big snails called mudwhelk.
Yeah.
And I'll eat them, or the mangrove snails.
And are they kind of staples in the local communities' diets up there as well? All those things.
Yeah, I mean they love getting into everything. Hey, they love the variety as well. I was up in Darwin, and I was helping at a retreat there, helping the indigenous people with health. and I got adopted into the Yolnu people there, like that live on Elko Island.
Wow.
So one of the crew, my Wawa, they call it Wawa, my brother, he's like, they had to think of a name for me. So yeah, he went away for a couple of days, and he waited until he had a dream what my name would be. And then he come back and he just come up to me and he's like, "You're Mungaroo." And I'm like, he's like, "That was my dream." He's like, "You're Mungaroo," and it's like Yolnu for water.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. Hey, and recently you've talking about this path that you're on with educating yourself. You've done some study with the Czech Institute. What did you do with one of Paul Chek's courses?
Yeah, I've done a few now. I've done like HLC level 1, scientific back, scientific core, program design. I think that's all of them so far.
That's awesome. What's attracted
a few.
What's attracted you to Paul Chek's approach?
Like when I was in Sydney, I got to meet a few Czech trainers, and they were really interesting people. Hey, and just the more I guess they spoke about the Czech philosophy, it was already like pretty in line with what I'm into. Like it's just I wouldn't say a more simple approach, but it just seemed to really resonate. Like it gets back to a more like primitive, primal. I don't even know if that's the right word for it, but it just really resonated. Like it's a more simplified, approach, and it just resonated.
Yeah, no, I think so as well. It's definitely something that I really gravitate towards his philosophies and his practices, and like you say, it kind of, as opposed to some of these, traditional fitness courses, which are just very fitness focused without considering, okay, what other stresses does this person have in their life? What else is going on with their, how they're eating? The Czech approach definitely kind of has a broader view of, all right, how's this person thinking? What are they doing? How are their relationships? What's their emotional estate? How's their body moving? Is it moving in, these kind of more primal pattern movements, which are going to benefit, health and longevity? It's a much more, well-rounded view on health as opposed to fitness.
Yeah, look, when I I guess you probably found the same too when you did your Cert 3 and 4. I did that, and then looking into the Czech stuff, diving into that deeper, and it's like the correlation between maybe your back pain and like the zone or chakra in your body, and I was like, whoa. I was like, it seems so far out there, but then you look into it, and it's just like, even with my issue, for instance, like with the thyroid can be related to like communication issues, and then if I really think back, I'm like, wow, there's definitely some correlation there. I'm like, I can definitely line some things up where I'm like, wow, okay, like I can relate to that. And then even you start looking at that, like when you really go into it deeper and you see the different health problems associated with different things, like you can dig deeper into issues, and there's like so many more layers that you can look at than just like, you got a bad back. Well, that's because, this, but like you could go back and it could be something way more deep or
Yeah, I think so too. There's definitely, that emotional or, deep element to a lot of these, especially things that I find like niggly kind of things that hang around for a long time. And there's lots of, cultures and alternative practices where, they correlate organs to, emotional issues or, lots of other things that are going on in our bodies. So yeah, it's really, it's just a minefield. There's so much you can, if you start getting into it, it's just endless what you can, discover and the knowledge you can build. So with you, like that education, so what's your kind of reasoning? Is it more for yourself, education, or is this a message that you want to share to others? Is it something that you want to, be able to, help other people with their health issues as well?
Yeah, I guess it initially started off with wanting to heal myself, but the more that I learn this stuff, like I would totally love to help other people, like that's my ultimate goal now, is to help other people. In what form exactly, I don't know, maybe that'll take many forms, but it seems to be it's like the easiest approach really is like, lifestyle and food and all those things, but it actually blows my mind that most people don't know.
Yeah.
Like I feel that they don't know, like even in like, well, people do know to some degree, but I guess that's what pushes me. But ultimately, I was actually thinking that the other day. Like, I guess for me, I've realized that I haven't studied anything how to make money or anything on how to create wealth. I've literally just spent like the last 5 or 6 years of my life just studying health. Like that's like health is my wealth.
Yeah.
And then I guess I'm at that stage now where it's like shit, I'd really love to show other people this. So yeah, that's in the passion for it.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I think you've got a really great opportunity to do that. There's there's definitely, a lot of people obviously resonating with your story. You're getting approached by lots of different people. You've been on some fantastic podcasts, some big platforms like Pete Evans recently. That was a really great chat.
Thanks,
your story is resonating, and I know that you get hit up constantly through Instagram by some pretty big names and celebrities that are interested in what you're doing and potentially want to have some experiences with you. So I'm sure that it's just you're kind of working towards something where you have the opportunity to share the message on a bigger stage, and lots of people can benefit from it. And especially I think taking people, or being encouraging people to spend time in nature and experiencing what you experience, where you do have that retraction from this kind of mental monkey mind that's we're all kind of driven by a lot of the time, and have some peace and look within yourself and find out what what's really important, and what your purpose is.
Yeah, man, like that's you roll it all up into one awesome pack. Like that's it. Hey, like yeah, man, like it's kind of funny. Like I haven't really given any of this stuff thought. Like social media to me, I literally only started using it. Like I've been traveling for a while. I hadn't even really used it. It was just a way of me putting photos up so my family knew I was alive. And then yeah, like I guess people have started sending me messages and stuff, and it's kind of evolved from there. And it's like, holy crap, like it was crazy. Like yeah, to do the Pete Evans podcast, this is like, holy crap, like I never ever thought that something like that would happen. So it's just been a bit of a spin out, really.
Yeah, it's great. No, you've got really good momentum, and you're very likable. You got a great story, and I think it's it's all leading towards ultimately what you you probably feel is the right direction anyway.
Yeah, that's it. Like even now, I guess I've sort of just surrendered to whatever is going to be. Like I guess in some ways I've studied the health and fitness stuff, but in some way it's like I don't like. There's nothing wrong with being a personal trainer, but like I don't know if that's exactly what I want to do. Like I definitely feel more inclined to want to take people out in the bush or something like that. Like it just because like I know people think health is, well, not everyone, but like it's like I eat this many calories and do some push-ups, but it's just like, nah, man, it's like a deep rabbit hole. Like, and I've been in it, so I'd love to share that experience with people. And I guess that's all I can do, really. I can only share my experience and where I'm at. That's all I can do, really.
For sure. And I noticed, like, just in regards to the, the training side of it, the physical training, you're extremely fit. You're, you're always shredded. You got always got a picture of you somewhere out in the bush that, you look like a bodybuilder. So is that, like, what do you do? Are you still doing weights, or are you doing, what is your training? I know that you're heavily involved with or part of the Real Movement organisation, Keegan Smith's organisation, which is really highly recommend anybody checking out Keegan's stuff and his message. He's a fucking weapon, and really, really deep thinker. So what's your connection there, and do you kind of follow their principles with your training?
Yeah, like I draw on a lot of different aspects of training, I guess. Keegan stuff really resonated because, I remember years ago there's like this jack dude juggling, and I was like, that's so random. Like, I've never seen like that before. I was like, that looks like something I want to be into. And then it just kind of, it went from there. Like, he was like doing all this really out of the box kind of training, and I was like, like, what the heck is this crew doing? There's all these jack dudes juggling. I was like, that looks like my cup of tea. So like that's like that's how I sort of fell into that sort of circle of people. But I draw from so many different things. Like, I guess when I was younger, I was pretty inspired by like bodybuilding, I guess. Not that I like aspire to be a bodybuilder, but just that kind of training mentality or modality, like, it's very structured, very basic. So I guess I draw it on that to some degree. And then there's like the calisthenics. Like, I prefer that because that's a lot easier for me to do when I'm traveling around, But then the more I know about training, is just like, for me, I guess to some degree, like, it is and it isn't all about training. Like, I think food's the biggest thing, because people like used to say to me like, oh yeah, like just how do you get jack like that? And it's just like, well, I know, eat clean. And like, like they kind of scratch their head. It's like, there's like no like real secret to it. And then you actually really tell people what it takes to, I guess, to look how I look, I guess, if you want to say that. And they probably scratch their head. They're like, what sort of hippy dippy stuff is he saying?
Yeah, I'm the same. I can relate to that as well. Like, my sort of journey through fitness side of it was, down that bodybuilding path and eating a lot, shitloads of carbs, eating 6 times a day. And I always felt like crap, I had inflammation, was always a bit puffy. And, it wasn't until I kind of really addressed my diet, like you say, with more of a paleo approach, which kind of goes against this whole, calories in, calories out, carbs after your training, and, these ideas or these, which, relevant in bodybuilding circles, but just, I think for the average person, you don't really achieve, what, you're hoping to achieve going down that path. So, introducing more sort of functional movement patterns and yoga and, the calisthenic stuff, and it's, just having a really broad range of training, but still, just using your body how I guess it's, in patterns that it's supposed to move in, is where I've seen the biggest changes in body composition, and just feeling better. At 45, I feel like I just don't get sore anymore. Like, I get sore after a big workout, but not sore in the way that I used to.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, I guess, like yourself, like the bodybuilding stuff, like, really drew me in. But I guess where we are probably at now is like, you sort of realize, you're like, oh, like the functional movement makes a bit more sense, because, it's like stuff you can take into your everyday life to a degree.
Yeah.
And it just, like you're kind of doing a little bit more movement. Like, you're not, like, a lot of the bodybuilding sort of movements aren't everyday life kind of things to a degree.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And has Keegan been a big influence on the way you're training now as well? Like, he's pretty outside of the
to be honest, Keegan's been a massive influence for me in my whole life. Like, I actually probably wouldn't have taken a few of the steps that I've taken and done some of the crazy stuff that I've done if I if I hadn't been influenced by Keegan. Like he actually,
that's interesting.
I haven't worked I haven't worked for like 4 years, but I just started helping a mate out. He had a tree business down in Brisbane, and I just started helping him with that. Because I guess I was at that stage. I kind of knew what I wanted to do, but I was a bit scared to do it, you know. So I started to slip back into maybe like not saying there's anything wrong with what my mate was doing, like just helping him out in his business, but I guess I'd been shooting a few messages back to Keegan, and he just sent me messages like, "Is that really what you want to be doing?" He's like, "How about you just come down here and just chill out for a few weeks and, you know, just bounce some ideas off each other and see what happens." So yeah, I literally just said to my mate, I'm like, "Oh, sorry, bro. I've just been offered this cool, crazy experience to go hang out with like the Roosters coach," and just like I did. I just went down and just hung out with Keegan for a few weeks, and he absolutely just has changed my life. You know, it's great to learn from people doing great things, and to be honest, I guess he gave me a bit of a boot up the backside and just in motivation, and just that's literally shot me down a totally different path in my life by actually spending time with him. Just how motivational he is.
Yeah, I mean, I find that when I flick on one of his podcasts, you know, once a week, I'm cooking dinner and I'm like, fuck, you know, I feel like I'm achieving a lot, but I've heard Keegan talk and I'm like, I need to push harder. Like, there's more room, you know. Whether, you know, and a lot of it's, you know, self-development related stuff or education, but yeah, he's a fucking cool guy.
Yeah, he really, like, he pulled out a Rubik's Cube and I was like, oh, what the hell are you doing with a Rubik's Cube? And then he's like, right, I have a crack at it. And then, like, at the time I didn't really understand why the hell I'd be playing with a Rubik's Cube. But then you start doing some of his philosophies and then like the juggling and stuff, and then you really understand why he does it. Like, it's, you know, it's using your brain, or like he had me doing so much stuff. Like, actually, he pulled out a journal and gave me a journal, and I actually have been journaling every day since I met Keegan.
Wow.
Like, that's just something that's been so powerful for me that I haven't stopped.
Yeah.
And yeah, just in general, like, you know, even just the idea, like, I guess I said to him, like, oh, you know, I'd love to potentially take people out with me one day. And he's like, okay, well, how are you going to do that? And then it's just like, well, you know, like he put me on the spot.
Yeah.
And then I'd never thought about it more than that. It was just like this pipe dream. But he's like, you know, right, well, tomorrow you're going to do it. Like, what are we going to do? And like, you know, he really forced me to actually take some action. Yeah. So yeah, it's been so bloody powerful.
That's cool. And I know we probably don't have much more time, but I just wanted to double back on diet stuff again now. Like, at the moment, you know, obviously you're very in touch with what's going on with what you put in your body and how it affects you. Are you full blown carnivore?
No, I've actually, I've had a crazy journey. Like, I guess I dived right into the carnivore thing because I had a lot of benefit doing it. And I guess even then, you could say, if people want to call it carnivore, like, I'm basically still mostly carnivore. But I'd been carnivore for a while, and, you know, I was feeling pretty good. And then I started to just like have dreams about asparagus, and I was like, what the fuck? And it was just like nightly, like I just kept waking up like a nightmare. I'd be like, ugh, and I'd be like, asparagus. Yeah. And I was like, okay, maybe that's, and
interesting.
I don't get like locked into anything, you know, like carnivore is good, but it's just like how, you know what I mean? Like the caveman diet, or like more or less my approach to eating is like, what do traditional cultures eat, or what, you know, like what did the indigenous people eat? Well, they ate both. Like they ate plants and meats. It, you know, it was very seasonal. It depended. Then again, a lot of the plants that we eat now, they're probably sprayed with crap, or, you know, there's so many ways you could look at this situation. Yeah. But yeah, I was carnivore. I started having dreams about plants. So I was like, okay, well, it's obviously time to add them back in, because I was having a lot of gut issues with plants.
Yeah.
So yeah, started dreaming about the plants, and then I slowly started to add them back in recently, and I seem to be okay. Like, I've been introducing them back in through what's called like the GAPS diet approach. And it seems like, seems to be working, because how I think about things is from like a survival point of view. Like, it doesn't make sense to only be stuck. Like, if you only eat meat, that's how I think about things, that like a more, what would a primitive culture been eating?
Yeah.
And then like, I've had a lot of benefit from carnivore. Some people demonize plants now, but it's just like, what if you're missing out on the potential for healing from something, if you lock yourself in a box? Like, I'm very open to everything,
it's a good approach. I mean, I've kind of, I can understand that as well. And like, obviously we've chatted about, this sort of stuff in the past, but, using certain changes in your diet to address something that's going on at the time. I pretty much, again, if you want to call it carnivore, it was more of an animal based, or, seafood and meats, and lots of wild meats as well. 80-90% focus on my diet for 4 or 5 months to heal some gut issues and, address some stuff that I've been sort of struggling with for a long time. And I felt fucking insane through that time. And I've kind of got to this point now where I'm introducing a few more things. I always had vegetables in there, but it was, more cauliflower, like a mashed cauliflower or mashed pumpkin, so minimal. And then, I've started introducing more stuff now, but I notice some things are triggering, the same responses again, like if I have nuts, or if I have, cruciferous vegetables, things like that, where I just find I get this brain fog and just a little bit of a, dip in energy. And it's weird. So it's an ongoing sort of process. But the best I feel is if I'm just eating like meats, seafood, lots of organ meats, and just minimal vegetables, like no raw veg, no green smoothies or anything.
Like that. That's exactly it. Like, I guess I'm finding the same thing that you are. Like, I feel better eating more meat. Certain plants still and do upset my stomach. So, like, a carnivore is my safe place, like my reset. Like, if I'm finding I'm having any issues, I just drop all plants, go back to carnivore, and then kind of I can go back from there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, when's the next adventure, mate? When are we heading out? Out bush?
Well, I'm actually gearing up now. So I think in the next few weeks I'm going to start heading north again. I'm going to start making my way up to Cairns and go back to the Gulf.
Wow.
So insane. Getting ready now. So soon.
Are you going to be documenting anything? Like, I know you've mentioned a YouTube channel and doing some self-filming of, of your adventures out there and what you're doing on a daily basis. Like, that would be fucking sick to see that. Is that on the agenda?
Yeah, I guess I feel like I've said I'm going to be filming myself for a long time, and people are probably like, when are you actually going to do it? It's just like I've had so many other opportunities lately. Like, I guess I've even put that stuff on the back burner. But yeah, definitely as I travel this time, I'm going to start documenting a whole lot more of what I'm actually doing, because I guess people want to see it. And I mean, if anything I can show would help someone to some degree, then sure, I'm going to show more of it.
Yeah, get it done, mate. Get it done. You might have to have a chat with Keegan again before you go. And
I'm kind of scared. I know every time I hang out with him, he puts a bomb under me and motivates me to do a heap of crazy crap.
Sure. Hey, well, I know you got some exciting news later in the year, so we'll hopefully we'll chat after that. And I'm sure we're going to be seeing your face on some pretty cool channels soon, whether it's podcasts or other stuff going on in Australia or your YouTube channel. But we'd be really keen to follow your adventures and get your message out to more people, mate.
Yeah, thank you, man. I'm looking forward to whatever the future holds, and there's some crazy stuff in the pipeline coming. So
great.
I guess I'm just going to keep being a gypsy and see what happens.
Keep rolling. Hey, and for listeners, anyone, if people want to track you down and follow you and tag along for these adventures, where can people find you? What's your Instagram If you've got Facebook, that would be cool as well.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, like just Adam Kavanagh, whatever you find through that, like, yeah, that'll be it. Like, I guess I mainly use Instagram just because Facebook's full of heaps of ads and junk at the moment, but
avoid that too.
And even then, I guess, to be honest, lately I haven't really been using much social media. I've been sort of off it, but yeah, that's where people can get hold of me if they want to.
Awesome. All right, Adam, thanks for your time, mate, and we'll look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you, man.
Thanks for listening to the Modern Pirate Podcast. If you like what you heard, please head over to iTunes now to subscribe to the show and leave us a rating and review. Want to talk more about this episode, suggest a guest, or offer feedback? Please head to our Instagram page, modern_pirate, or swing by the website to sign up for our semi-weekly newsletter at modernpirate.com.au. Thanks again and stay salty.